Well, good afternoon. We're going to get started with our webinar. I want to welcome everyone back to another edition of Turk's Tips and Tricks. Today, we're talking about NX Synchronous Technology. For an agenda, very briefly, we're going to talk about Geometric Solutions, the company I work for, who we are, more importantly, how we can help. Then we'll jump into our subject, Turk's Tips and Tricks, Synchronous Technology. If you've attended any of my webinars before, you'll know when you see the nerd glasses on the screen, it is because I've got them on and I am excited about this topic. Synchronous technology, I think, is fantastic, and it's probably not used as much as it could be. So we're going to take a look at some of the ins and outs, and then also a little plan to get you started in using synchronous technology. We've got the GoToWebinar dialog box. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask them at any time, and I'll do my best to answer them during the session. But if I'm unable to, don't worry, I'll get with you afterwards. My name is Dan Turk, and I'm an application engineer with Geometric Solutions. Now, the company that I work for, Geometric Solutions, we sell the best software that there is. We sell Siemens software solutions. We're part of the larger Waltonen family of companies. What that means is at Waltonen Engineering, we've got hundreds of designers and engineers, and guess what they're using? They're using Siemens software. But then we go to the other end and we have Independence Tooling Solutions. So we have manufacturing capabilities that they're actually building things that we're designing. So you could say front to back, top to bottom, every way around, we've got you covered. The owner of our company, he put it nicely. He said, our ability to successfully partner with our customers comes from our experience in using the tools we sell every day. So we're not just selling these tools, no, we actually use them. And might I say, we use them pretty successfully too. So now let's jump into the subject. Turk's Tips and Tricks, NX Synchronous Technology. I'm going to pull up my NX. And what I have is just a basic dumb part. Now, I modeled this guy up, and this is what I recommend for everybody when they're going to start playing around with synchronous technology, is that you create some kind of crazy, wacky part that looks like this, and then just play around with the synchronous modeling tools that we have. So we could click to move a face. You can use the fence select. We've got this nice little arrow here, the steering wheel, where we can move our parts or move this tab or slot around. We could orient that or change the orientation. Let me do that again. And here I'm trying to grab the vector. There we go. Change the vector. And you start to get the idea. When you just play around with it, it's really easy to use and it's quite intuitive. The trick I would say with this is while you're working is just to do it slow to start. Like when I selected these couple of pieces and I wasn't getting quite the correct click that I wanted. Well, that was my fault, not the software's. Within the synchronous though, when we look at the modeling, at this tab, it's the home tab, but we look at this group of tools. Move, we pretty much get. Delete is really a nice tool, especially when you have a part like this one, and maybe there's just some feature that you want to get rid of. So we'll just select a couple faces and we can delete them that easily. We can select larger pieces and get rid of them. This works really well if you have a step file or a parasolid that you brought in and you just want to clean it up. Now, there's some other nice tools that we have that what I find is most folks just don't think about using them. I'm going to click on the More button. You can see we've got a lot of synchronous modeling tools, too many to go over today. But check out some of these relate commands. Now, what these are face relationships. So let's just take this make coaxial. Now you can see my part. These guys line up pretty good, but over here, it's a little wonky. When it comes to synchronous modeling, it's motion and then stationary. So what do I want to move? Then where do I want it to move to? What do I want it to stay still? And you can see that part, or that hole drops right in there. So again, I choose the motion face, then the stationary, and it drops right into play. Let's use some more of these face relationships. How about make coplanar? So again, motion, stationary, that's the trick. And I'll put another one of those in there. Good. This time, I'm going to just take and move one of these faces. Now, were you expecting when I clicked move that this side was going to move as well? Because I put that coplanar on there? If you take a look at the tool palette, move face, we have this face finder, and here's where we can choose if we want to use any of the found relationships. So I'll just click to turn that on, and there it's moving like you would expect. So again, that's the face finder, and it works really well. We'll just hit OK. When I click back on the more and look at the relationships, we're not going to go through all of these, but just to give you the idea of all the different tools that you have. Let's just use one more. How about make symmetric? So I'm going to choose a face to be symmetric. Then I'll choose my plane, which is just the CSIS. And again, the stationary. And notice it grabbed the entire thing. And that's because the face finder, we've got these pieces turned on. So, okay. Those face relationships can really make your job a lot easier. But let's look at another pretty cool tool that we have. I've got this sketch and extrusion. I intentionally had it where the extrusion, this little sheet, it's not actually going over my bosses. But I want to show you this really cool tool called replace. Essentially, it's going to replace a face. So I'll choose the faces, and then where do I want the replacement face to be? I choose that sheet. You'll notice we've even got a little offset in there, or you can go reverse. But the solver is smart enough to know that even if we're not crossing, that's what we can use. Another area where some folks will use the replace face is on a tab, or I should say a slot like this, although I suppose a tab would work just the same. Selecting one part, then another, and it tells you, hey, you've consumed that face. But it's still knocking it out just the same way that you would have expected. So my recommendation, again, for everyone that's going to try to use synchronous, create some crazy part like this. In fact, I'll have my email address up. If you want this part, because it's kind of a silly one, then just send me an email and I'll send it to you. And then you can just play around with it, and that'll help you to get good with the synchronous tools. All right, let's look at some practical ways, though, that we can use synchronous modeling, synchronous technology, but not just on a silly part, maybe on some real parts. Okay, so here we've got this motor. And what we want to do is make some adjustments to this part. I want to change this fill. I'm going to change the location. I want to rock it back, forward, and then angle it again. So I want to make a lot of changes to this little spout. So I go into the part, just like you guys have done 100 times before, and oh no, the dreaded first part's just a body. Uh-oh. Can I remodel that thing? No, we don't need to. we're going to use the synchronous tools. I'm going to use move quite a bit because I just want to show you a number of different ways that you can use it. I'm going to put a fence select around my part. Then I'm just going to take that little orientation and set it. I'm going to say that I want to rock this about an angle. So I choose a vector, choose a point, and there you go. Now you can see it moving. I'm going to try to do this slow, but if you look at the part, this is neat how well the solver works. You'll notice as I'm bringing it up to that wall, because I've got a little bit of a radius on there, that the geometry is adjusting. That's not what I want in this case, but I just want to show you that that's what it can do. So I'll just drop that one down. And let me move it again. So I'll just do the fence select. This time I'm just going to put it in a vector, a direction. And what I want is I want it to come across that blend just a bit. Get where I can see a little better. And then we want to take this part and I want to rotate it yet again. So we're really trying to, so to speak, break the geometry. I'm just going to set that, set the origin point. Once you click on the origin point, you'll notice you get this little pop-up here. And it's giving me the different planes that we have, or as you've seen me select, the different vectors. So I'll choose the XY plane. And then I want to just rotate this. Isn't that cool? That I'm able to take and rotate this as much as I need to. I mean, of course, we could rotate it beyond the point of it being useful. Let's take it to 350 for 10 degrees and done. Just that quickly, we were able to take that spout, kick it up, forward, and then put another bit of rotation on there. This works really well if you're doing concept work. Maybe you need to take 4 different concepts. Well, using the synchronous modeling, you could quickly create each of them and then just make the adjustments with a reference set. And then just to show, if I right-click on one of these features, I can then choose extract body here, and it simply makes a copy of the body that I had just created. I can modify it again, new reference set, and I'm ready to go. So just another, that's not a synchronous tool as much as it is just a really neat one. Let's stay in this part, and we're going to move another face. So what we want to do is we want to move this face in and just kind of clean it up a little bit. So I'll choose move face. And this time I'm going to choose specify distance vector because this face is a little funny. I want to make sure I get it just right. I'm also going to go to my settings and I'm going to choose extend incident face. Just something else to note, it gives you a little preview of what each one of these will do. And then when I go to my distance, this time I'm going to right click and say snap to an object. So I don't know what the distance is between these two, but I don't really need to know. I'll just snap right to the object. The face goes back, but here's the key using that extend incident face. It takes and it, as it were, it hugs that cylinder, or it hugs that radius. So now my part, it's looking like I would want it to, and it only took just a couple steps. Let's briefly go over to our cover. Now here I just want to show you, we've seen the move, So if I choose this move, do you notice the thickness is changing? So that's move. You're literally taking a face, you're moving it. That's where there's another tool that we have called pull face. So in this case, I'm literally taking a face and I'm pulling it. So it went from a cone, now I pull it straight up and it's more of a cylinder. So just something kind of neat to show you the difference between. Okay, let's move another part. I want to take and I want to move this brown portion. I want to move it, say 15 millimeters to the right. So I'll just do a little fence select around. Choose my origin. There we go, there's my vector. And as I start to move it, so I need to get it to 15. Uh-oh. That is weird, isn't it? What's happening is it's moving and it's adapting. So as the part moves over, it's really trying to adapt or hold on to that face. That's not what we want. So instead, I'm going to change the move behavior to a cut and paste, and then I'll choose paste. And that gives us exactly what we were looking for. Again, the cool thing about this is it's taking those edge blends and it's adjusting them. Now, while we're looking at this part, one of the biggest ways that I've used the synchronous technology or the synchronous modeling is when I'm concerned about GD&T. So let's just say that we had this part and it was a profile of a surface and it was at an MMC of, let's say, 0.5 millimeter. Well, maybe I want to model the MMC and the LMC models. Well, this is where synchronous can really come into play. I can just select a couple of the faces and look at that, MMC, LMC, with just a button click. So that's one of the nice ways that I've found to use synchronous is with that LMC, MMC, GD&T. Lots of acronyms there, but I'm pretty sure you know what they are. All right, let's move on to another part. And again, we're going to just keep on moving our parts. Oops. I'm going to take this bottom piece, make it my work part, and I'll just hide the top. What I want to do is take and angle this up. I'll choose move. I'll choose the one cylinder. And then I'm going to choose one face. But instead of coming over to pick this face, just to show you, I'm going to choose, hey, it found one that's coplanar. So that's what I want. And you'll notice it selects it as well. Or if we were to choose a hole, and we pause for just a second, this is where we could choose hole faces. So you could pick once, hole faces. Or we can just come and do the fence select. On an easy part like this, perhaps that's the way to go, but just to show you the differences that we have. I'm going to change my origin point and also the plane. I'll change this to a move and adapt. And I just want to kick this part, let's say 10 millimeters or 10 degrees, not millimeters. And we'll just say, okay. If I bring up my other part, I can see, because I had a assembly constraint on there, that it moved along with the other part just fine. Most of it did, at least. But let's make a couple more of adjustments to our part. Let's just say that we want to stretch this guy out maybe 30 millimeters. And then we want to take this slot and we want to move it. So I'll just do a thin select. And let's see, uh-oh, look what it's finding. It's saying, hey, there's another one of those symmetric. And we'll move that. And then you need to just go to automatic. Whoops. I'll just do a thin select on it. I'm not sure why it didn't just grab. And I'll take that 30 millimeters to the side. Okay. And then we want to take these slots and we want them on the opposite side. So we're going to stick with the synchronous. And this time I'm going to go to the reuse tools. Here we go. Mirror face. Just select these. Specify a new plane. I'm just going to use the bisector. Okay. And what you're getting to see is just how quickly we're able to make those adjustments. Now let's go back to our cap. I'm going to take the cap and make it the work part. And even if I were to just move that 30, it's still not going to line up just right, is it? You know, that you can just see it from the side. The angle is just not very pretty. Well, we want it to be dead on. I'm going to use the replace face tool. Now, this is what's awesome about this. I choose one face. I want to choose this face. That's what I want it to go towards. Of course, it's in a different component. So I'll just say, how about let me select within the entire assembly. And apply. Do the same thing over here. And OK. Then it would just be a matter of taking this little hole that we have and stretching that out as well. But I just wanted to show you how fast you can move your parts around using synchronous modeling, especially when it comes to that angle. How would you have done that in a normal sense? Well, you'd have a couple of sketches to adjust for sure, wouldn't you? Okay, we're going to look at another nice synchronous tool, and it's the cut, copy, and paste. So just like in Windows or in Word, you'll cut and copy things. We can do the same thing here. So let's just say that we want to have this little slot. We want it on the opposite side, but we want it to be deeper. Well, there's a couple different ways you could do it. You could mirror it and then offset it, or we could use some of these tools. I'm going to go copy face. And I'll just select around the whole thing. In this case, I want to rotate it about this axis that I've already created. And we'll just take it to 180. Okay. A little bit different maybe than what you were expecting. You may have thought, well, hey, isn't that going to cut that out? We could have turned that toggle on to do that. But in this case, what we really want is to show you that you just pasted those faces. So then I could come into these pasted faces, do a quick offset, and then bring the body back. Well, now we need to attach it. And this is where it might be a little bit different than what we're thinking. And that is that we have to go in and then paste the face. So the target, my solid, tool, that face, OK. And there we have it. So really nice tool that we have. All right, the next part we're going to look at has to do with blends. we're going to use a really nice tool called Reorder Blends. If you just take a look at our model, isn't this your nightmare? If this was the part that you had to create a tool for, it's just that kind of ugly blend. It doesn't make sense, you know, why they did that. It's just that they put this blend in last. So the Reorder Blends tool, you select the blend and it just shows you, here's an alternate, which that's exactly what we would want, right? Select and OK. So really quick. Otherwise, what would we have had to do? Delete out all the blends and then put them back, perhaps? Okay, let's move on, because I'm going to be running out of time here. There's another cool tool that we have, and that has to do with resizing and replacing blends. So the first thing I'm going to do is choose Resize Blend. I'm just going to pick this blend on the bottom. It's 1 millimeter. I want it to be 2. Nothing could be easier, right? Piece of cake. So let me take this larger one. Uh-oh. Why didn't it select all of the pieces? Oops, I clicked the wrong button. So I select this first. Again, why didn't it select everything? Why won't it let me select the middle pieces? Well, let me just try it anyways. So I put in 2 and nope. See what it is? It looks at these blends that we have and it can see that from the translation, there's a bit of an error. So typically what we would do is we would just go in and delete these guys right out of there. Well, that's what we maybe would have done in the past. What we'll do now, though, is we're just going to use the tool Replace Blend. So Replace Blend, here we go. It's underneath Optimize. And it's pretty cool. I just select the whole thing. Okay. Did it work? Well, let's resize our blend and see. Look at that. Pick the entire side. Excellent. We'll change it to 2. And I can see it wants to. With the AI, it wants to pick the other side, so we'll accept that. Hey, there we go. It's just another tool that's going to really speed you up, especially when you're dealing with different kinds of geometry, maybe that come in from a step or a parasolid or what have you. Okay, the last thing I want to look at, due to time, I should say, the last thing I want to look at is that we have the ability to add dimensions. So we've got this dumb part, but just to show that you could come in here and start to dimension your part. So make some movements. And we look at that and go, well, that's not exactly what we want. So maybe we need to select some of these other sides to get it to move. And coplanar tangent. Okay, well, maybe I needed to select more on that. But you get the idea. Let me add another dimension in here. I'm going to put an angular dimension. So from the floor to one of the walls. And here we can go ahead and make that change. Now, if I look at that, that's not really what I want, is it? Not ideally. I don't want to put this on there twice. So I'll just turn on the offset so it recognizes an offset. And excuse me, then I'm able to come in, change that angle as needed. So with the dimensioning tools that we have, linear, angular, we can come in and add radial dimensions, change it to a diameter, and you start to get the idea. It just gives us a lot of different control over our over our parts. There's a lot more that we could have shown with Synchronous. The issue, though, is we've got about a half hour. So those were the coolest things that I thought to show. I want to remind everyone that this webinar series, Turk's Tips and Tricks, it's the 4th Tuesday of each month. So please mark your calendars. I also want to give a shout out to Tony Parker from Fermilabs. We sent him the nerd glasses because he gave us one of our topics from a month or so ago. If you have any suggestions, well, please send me an email at dan.turk@goplm.com. If we use your suggestion, we'll send you a pair of my patented nerd glasses, and we'll thank you for doing that. At this time, I want to thank everyone for their time and for their attention. If you have any questions or any suggestions, you've got my email address, and you can also see that you can email us at solutions@goplm.net. We also have this little QR code that you can scan to learn more. All right, everybody, have a great day, and as always, be safe out there. Take care.